Hi, everybody. My name is Chetan Venkatesh. I'm the CEO and co founder of Macrometa. And today I'm here with a very special guest who is going to talk about Akamai and Linode and the RISE program. His name is Pranil Kotayakandi, and he is my co conspirator and collaborator at Akamai. And over the last year and a half, he and I have collaborated deeply to build the partnership and the integrations between Akamai's Edge network, Linode, and Macrometa. Pranil is the director of business development at Akamai. He's been there for a few years, but welcome, Pranil. And for I know you for a year and a half and collaborated with you closely. I'd love for you to share with our audience in your own words a little bit about yourself and Akamai and Linode.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Chetan. It's been exciting to work on the partnership and loved partnering with you to build something really, really special, which we think will be game changing for the industry. So
Likewise.
just to quickly, just to introduce myself, like you said, I'm Pranil. I've been working for the business development group at Akamai. Been with Akamai for about 14 years now. So have worked with some of the largest publishers, broadcast, media companies at Akamai in the sales world, and then decided to focus on more inorganic sales versus organic sales through working on partnerships, do some top of funnel work on M&A, and also investments through Akamai Ventures. And it's been a pleasure working with you over the last year and a half. And we think we built something really special and look forward to seeing what feedback we have. Going into a little bit about the Akamai story. For those of the people that are not familiar with Akamai, Akamai has been around for 22 years. The largest CDN. We created the CDN industry. The first decade for Akamai was CDN. The second decade for Akamai, we started venturing into security, and we built the world's largest distributed security platform on the Akamai platform. And we believe the third decade is about compute, and the era starts with one of the largest acquisitions Akamai has made earlier this year, with Linode now joining as part of the Akamai family. So we have great aspirations, and we can talk a little bit more about where we are headed with this whole acquisition and what our vision is. But one key aspect of the acquisition and where we want to take it forward is to get some more mind share with the startup community. Get more mind share with early stage companies and give them this platform which allows them to build truly on the edge. And a key aspect of that is what we call the Linode Rise program.
Wow, that's there's a few things I want to unpack with you over there, Pranil. So let's dive right in.
Sure.
So, Pranil, maybe we'll start by sort of thinking or help us understand the Akamai evolution and into the Linode acquisition. Because it's so fascinating to me. I mean, you guys are the OG of the edge. You guys invented the edge, 20, 25 years back. And I really believe that had it not been for Akamai, maybe the web wouldn't be where it is today. It might be very different. Um, and one of the things I do know is that you have probably the biggest network in the world, 4,200 regions or pops around the world. And you carry so much of the internet's traffic already, right? And you have a platform already for building lots of interesting edgy applications. I mean, you guys announced Edge Workers a while back and things like that. And so, how does Linode fit in this continuum of edge, the way Akamai has built it over the last, decade?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And like you pointed out rightly, Akamai invented the edge. We've been using the term edge for 22 years, way before it was the cool thing to say, where everybody is edge
Right.
native these days. Uh, so like we invented cloud computing. We had something called edge computing, like way before the clouds existed as well. So our vision has always been about how can we bring compute functionalities as close as possible to the users. And when we say close, we're talking about literally one or two hops away from a typical end user. So
Hmm.
with that vision, we started the CDN journey, we went on the security journey. There was a lot of successes on both. And we started working on what we are calling, the compute journey for Akamai. And it started off with internal developments to say, hey, we have this massive platform, 400,000 servers deployed globally, 4,000 plus points, one or two hops away from every user. What if we could bring more and more compute functionality to the servers where we do more things beyond, all that we are doing, like security, caching, CDN, media, and all of that. And the
Right.
first foray into that journey was our Edge Workers product. Think
Hmm.
about it as completely serverless based compute. You can run fancy JavaScript running exactly at the edge, a lot of complex manipulation for requests and responses coming in, and build extremely powerful apps, just by having super low latency, high throughput applications built there. So that was the first foray. And then we started looking at the market and saying, you know, if we look at the paradigm of how the web evolved, people started coding only for servers years ago. If you rewind 20 years ago, it was just coding on the servers. Then we
Right.
had client server model where people coded for the client and the server. And we started seeing, the future is a three-tier model. You code for the server, you code for the client, you will be coding for the edge as well.
Right.
Now, edge workers was a key component for it, but we wanted more. We wanted more compute and more powerful functionalities being given. And that's where we started working on the Linode acquisition, and I was fortunate enough to be part of that process as well. And the whole vision behind that is, when you think about the cloud, you're potentially thinking tens of locations. When you think about the true edge like Akamai, you're thinking hundreds of thousands of locations. And
Right.
we believe there is this middle layer, which is hundreds of locations, where you can really bring like heavy compute, which you can't do at the cloud, and you don't want to do at the edge at all times, because there is a use case for what you can do at the edge. There's a use case for what you can do at the cloud, but most of the applications that are built for the next decade need something more than that. And that's the thesis behind what we're doing with Linode.
I think that you made such a profound argument over there that the edge is not one thing, that it's a continuum. You can even call it a spectrum, right? There
Absolutely.
are different places on the edge, where different things will run just because of the kind of infrastructural need that that particular application or service needs. There are things that belong on the device. There are things that belong on the network, on the far edge of the network, close to the device. There are things that belong really in the middle, and there are things that belong in the cloud. And the thesis of Macromet is also built around a very similar idea that data itself is not one thing. There are many different types of data, and some of that data is historical, and much of that data is operational and real time in nature. And so the speciation, or the way the evolution is happening, is that all the slow and deep historical stuff will go to the cloud, but all the real time, interactive operational things that we need to do, where we need to make decisions, actuations, understand, things that are happening in the real world in milliseconds or less, those things need to happen closer to where events are happening, where people are, where devices are, and that's the edge. And again, you have to tier that. You can't do everything at this device, or you can't do everything at the edge of the network close to the device. You'll do many things there, but you'll also leverage the middle of the network, places like Linode. And I'm really excited, by the way, to hear that you're thinking about tens, if not hundreds, of locations with that Linode kind of an infrastructure, because candidly, we've been Linode customers since 2018, even before partnership with Akamai, and we've leveraged Linode extensively as one of the core underpinning service providers that we've built Macrometa on. But you know this already, and we can talk a little bit more about this. Um,
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about how you envision startups leveraging Akamai and Linode in this new world.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So I echo the same sentiments that you mentioned about, the Macrometa partnership. And I think, the giving some kind of data access where compute is, expands the scope of what can be built. And we think that applies for traditional Akamai enterprise customers, the kind of customers we are inherited with the Linode acquisition, as well as forward-looking startups who are in their early pre-stage, just building out their MVPs or even like further along the journey. And we think it makes a complete sense to provide the next generation platform for the next generation of apps, startups we are building for the next generation. And I think that's where the differentiator is. Like there is no shortage of options for a startup who wants some kind of compute on the cloud, or like any of the hyperscalers or any of the other alternate clouds as well. We believe what we bring to the table is unique, built for the next generation. And the way we are enabling it is by providing startups with this program called the RISE program,
Mhm.
which we inherited from Linode, and we plan to expand that going forward as well. It pretty much lies on the five pillars. The first one is giving them enough credits. When they're starting off, we want to give them enough credits. You have like about $100,000, $20,000 worth of credit a year. And it's not just the first year and you start paying. It's, you have discounts for the second year around 50%, 25%, the third year. So we want to be with them for the whole journey. And, I'll ask you the same question because I know you've been with Linode and the RISE program for a while. So we could talk about that. But, we think that's very important. But that's not the only thing. We want to also provide them with consulting help, for
Yeah.
they are building complex architectures, complex applications, and we want to make sure they do it in the best way using the best paradigms, which are latest and greatest. We want to provide them with the services and the support, and more importantly, also the community of fellow startups in the ecosystem. People like yourself who have really been there, done that over the past few years, and accelerated growth. And we can see where you're growing, and we would love to be part of the journey, just like we are with you, with potentially new startups who are interested in this program.
Yeah, no, thanks, Pernell. I think you guys are the OG of the Edge, but we're the OG of the Rise program, right? We kind of
Indeed.
were, I think, one of the first companies to be inducted into the Rise program, and we kind of beta tested it with Linode and the wonderful folks over there. And
Yeah.
I really have just a high amount of respect and admiration for that company because how they are very engineering and technical centric to begin with. And I'll share briefly our relationship with Linode. Um, so I think it was 2018, and we had kind of started to build our platform out on 4 or 5 different providers. And a provider, and I won't name names, we were just having a lot of challenges with their infrastructure. And they're sort of, in the similar class of clouds, developer focus as Linode is. And what we found was that we were just not getting the kind of consistent performance from their platform between one region to another. And that's a really big deal to us because you're building an application on Macrometa, we'll put it in lots and lots of regions, and it all needs to perform to a certain standard. And what we found was that you provisioned in U.S. East, say New York, and you provisioned in say Central Europe, same exact instance type, completely different performance parameters. And it was frustrating us, and we were not getting the kind of deep technical support help and trust and confidence, really, frankly, that was important for us to double down on them. And so we came across Linode at the time, and we were very skeptical because we'd gotten burnt by this experience. But as we went in, we just saw that there was actually a very strong technology platform at Linode. This was a company by engineers for engineers, clearly, and they were bringing a very, very advanced platform. They were not cutting corners to get sort of the economics to a certain point, which is how I felt about the provider that we had been dealing with. And the performance benchmarks just blew us away, right? But where it started to get really interesting was that we found the network underpinning all of this that connected all the different Linode regions was top notch and was a competitive advantage because it allowed us to drop the egress cost substantially. I mean, egress cost, as you know, is one of the big gotchas of the cloud world, right? You can get your data in for free, but getting it out is hard. So in a platform
Indeed.
like ours, where we're replicating data across, potentially dozens, if not hundreds of regions, egress can climb up substantially, and I can't just pass that cost on to our customers, right? And so that network model of Linode again was just extraordinarily powerful. And then the third thing that was really amazing was the support and the technical collaboration we got from Linode, because we could go, and especially now at the scale that we're at now, we can have conversations with Linode about special things that only we probably need. Not many customers have, a need for things like that. And even in the early days, they would take us seriously and they'd help us find ways to customize, the standard blocks that they had to try and meet us, in terms of where we needed to be, either from performance or cost or certain densities and things like that. So it was a fantastic technical experience, architectural experience of collaboration. But the very well thought out aspects of the RISE program really is where, there's the icing on the cake. So it wasn't just $120,000 of credits because everyone gives you credits. At one point, I think we had $500,000 of credits from all the cloud providers, right? But the point was that what Linode was saying was, look, it's not just the credits to help you build your MVP, but as you start to go to market, we understand it takes time for a startup to build its initial traction and customer base. So how about we match you with discounts in production, right? So that as you ramp up, you are able to also, we're able to match you, with the scale that you're at. So I think, I can't remember the numbers at this point, but it might have been 70% off the first year on your bill. It dropped down to something else in the second year, and then third year, and then fourth year is sort of when the trainer wheels come off, right? And you go full flow. And I remember thinking to myself, these guys are in it with me for the long haul. This is not, hey, come and build on my cloud. I'll give you 100,000 credits, and then 365 days later, chop, and now you're playing full price. Everything go. Because I do remember a horrible experience, which is I had more than half of the credits with a particular cloud vendor, and we just didn't use it, and I needed just another 30, 60 days to try and finish a few things on that cloud, and they refused to extend, and they started to charge us full price, which in all fairness, that's the T's and C's. Again, we signed up for it, but that doesn't create
Right.
partnership, right? It just
Exactly.
creates a transaction. But for us, Linode was just a really great experience because we felt like we had a partner who had our back, and just met us where we needed them to meet us. So yeah, just I'm a great fan and an endorsement, out of my own choice and will, for Linode over here. I would say these things regardless of the Akamai partnership. If
That's
anything,
amazing.
the fact that Akamai has acquired Linode and is expanding all that goodness, to me, just is even more exciting, and I think fantastic for the startup world. Yeah.
That's so awesome to hear. Yeah, like especially coming from you, right? Like I mean, like you said, it was beta tested with you, and we couldn't be happier with the journey and the partnership and how tight of a collaboration this has created. And I echo the same sentiments about the Linode team. Having worked with them over the last 6 months or so, super smart, super technical folks, and and really care about customers regardless of the size at which they are. And like you said, we are in it for the long run. We are in it to help and partner and probably even take things even further, right? Like so, Linode did a lot of things very well from a developer standpoint, from the ecosystem standpoint.
Right.
Akamai has historically been great at building networks and building the largest networks in the world. And we think both of these forces combined could just provide so much more to startups who want to, experiment and, be on the platform like you did and potentially even grow, right? We are also working on some new programs to say, hey, how can we take partnerships forward? Because,
Right.
we are looking at fulfilling a lot of components within the platform through partners like yourself. Case in point, the Macromed Akamai partnership around the data and compute. So we are super excited about it, and great to hear that feedback, and look forward to working more on those and exposing more of these functionalities to future startups.
Two other topics to discuss quickly with you, Purnell. The first one is what is Akamai's plans with Linode? You talked a little bit about the fact that there's a middle of the network that you're going to build on Linode, but can you tell us a little bit about what folks can expect in 2023 in terms of the expansion plans you have, and maybe a little peek at a little bit of the future as well in terms of coverage and and then things that developers should be excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's generally three big priorities or focus areas, with the Linode acquisition. So currently there are deployments of Linode in about 11 regions. So the immediate priority is to say, hey, how can we extend that,
Right.
to double that or more over the next year or so. So that's the core regions, as we call it, which is, think about your absolute core, compute heavyweight functionality provided in that region. We're also building out the second tier that I was talking about, the tens of locations in the three-tier cloud model. We want to get the total of that to about 50 locations by the end of next year. And while we are deploying all these infrastructures and hard at work to provide the base primitives that all customers, including the startups on Rise, need,
Mm-hmm.
the team I work for, which is business development, is chartered with finding partners to help provide more functionality on top of this, right? So while we focus on the core compute, we want to leverage partners to help customers build on top of it. I think our partnership is a key example of it. You need compute, great. You have Akamai and you have Linode and you have edge workers and all of that. Now you also, want to bring data close to compute because that expands what you can do with this whole model. And that's why we have partners like you guys. And similarly, for different use cases, we are actively working with partners and saying, hey, what are key components that customers need? What are key, problems that customers have that can be solved with an Akamai plus partner, 1 + 1 = 3 model that we want to take to market. And we're actively working on that, hard at work, and expect to announce a lot more partnerships over the coming year.
That's exciting. So this is not just about providing a cloud platform. It's also helping startups and growth stage startups, right? find ways to leverage Akamai, Linode as business partners, and kind of help the edge become a real mainstream platform for people to build interesting things. The enterprise customer, for example, being able to do interesting things there. Awesome. This is super exciting. And before we wrap, how do people learn more about Rise? Where do they go to sign up for Rise? How can they get in touch with you and the folks who are administering this program, Pranal?
Absolutely, yep. So people who are interested in Rise can also always go to linode.com/rise, and there's a lot of information on there. There's a form you can fill up. We can also put in some of the links at the end of this video, so anybody who's watching this can just click on those, put in the forms. There are a few qualification criteria, pretty basic ones. As long as people qualify for it, our teams can get in touch to make sure how we can provide the free credits and all the assistance that's needed. So happy to provide all those links, and we can put it at the end of this video for sure.
That's awesome. So linode.com/rise. And we're going to have in the show notes the details, the links, all of that stuff. So please be sure to check it out. Well, Brunel, this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation with you. Thank you again for your time and your energetic thoughts. I'm excited for our partnership. I'm excited for what people will build on Akamai, Linode, and Macrometa together. But I'm also excited for the wonderful new things that people will just discover and take advantage of in the RISE program going forward. Congratulations on all this amazing stuff. And look forward to continuing the great work we're doing together. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And I couldn't be more excited as well. I know we are releasing a lot of stuff through the week, and I couldn't be more excited about all the buzz this is creating and all the customers that would be excited to work with us as well.
Sounds great. Take care, Purnell. Bye.
Thank you, Chetan. Bye.